Let's look at the upcoming second part of chemistry. This is key to success in grade 10, and this is going to be my single biggest focus in the remaining part of the course to make sure they have all the core knowledge for grade 10. I call this their grade 10 survival kit, and I recommend that they save this on their own computer, download it as PDF, and keep it for grade 10. They can throw out everything else I've done. This is the key to being successful because it's the one unit that is built upon. So again, I set it up where we have our lessons and the key parts in the textbook. But then I have these key pictures that if they can understand the techniques being shown in the pictures or the events, then they have their best idea as to the key core material they've learned in the section. I've created a series of color-coded learning sheets that will get them through grade 10 and 11 chemistry. These cover the bulk of what is needed. So obviously at the start they can't know what this means, but by the end this should be quite clear to them what it is they're learning here. These are all the key lessons. This material here was something we were going to work through together in class. So now it can't really be done. They're basically doodle sheets for their notes. I like to have things highly structured in this section and preferred to provide them templates rather than let them freehand draw these things. These are all my key lessons. I mean, they're still online and they're still by videos, but this is their grade 10 survival package I put together a few years ago. This material, download it to their computer and keep it for grade 10. Notice there's clickable links for the videos, there's scannable links for the videos, and a miniature little lesson at the top of the page. So it gives them 3 ways of accessing how to do this. Creating ionic bonds. There it is, a miniature lesson and scannable codes to take them to a video of me teaching it, and same with the covalent bond sheet. Every worksheet I've created should have clickable and scannable links that will take them to the lesson. And this works really well if they're getting assistance from an adult that may not remember the material themselves, then you don't have to go hunting for the lessons. In class, I would be teaching it as well as them having the backup lesson. As we move into part 2, I'm asking you to bounce around a little bit. I would like you to read the history of chemistry on these 2 pages, and then I would like you to go backwards a little bit further and read the introductory material to the unit here. I don't always agree with the order they put it in. All questions are optional to write down. Only write them down if you want me to check them or you feel the need to write them down. But if you can read them and understand what it is you've read, you're good to go. Then you're moving forward here. The patterns in the periodic table are extremely important, as are the names of the basic chemical families, the 4 outer columns. All of them were named at one point, but you only need to know the name of column 1, 2, 17, and 18, or what are called families. You should also be aware roughly the breakdown that metals are to the left of the staircase, non-metals to the right, with an area inside that's a bit vaguer. We call it metalloids. And again, it says read, but it does say do. The ones that say do, I would tend to carry out my instructions exactly as written. They're important ones to work on. Then you jump forward a little bit to the theory of the atom. And I have some notes on that. And this is a really cool experiment you get to do in university if you take physics. It's really neat. And so you go through that material. Then we jump a little bit further on. And we get our googly eyes. This is the stuff we want you to know cold for grade 10. What these numbers mean and what they're going to tell you about the table. I have a lot of material on this that will work you through it very cleanly. So you want to go through this, skip the try this, skip any of the readings that are activities. When you get to the review, starting here on page 248, once again, read the question. Can you answer it in your head? If so, don't write it down. But these questions here, number 5, will very frequently ask you to define the difference between the two, a proton and a neutron. And I have a lesson on this, Zoolander's Guide to Answering Questions Gooder, that will go through fine-tuning how you answer this kind of question. So this is a key understanding and explanation question, and it's worth looking at my Zoolander guide to make sure you can do that. Other than that, just read through them. And number 11, this is again practice for the routine. Number 13, again in your head is good enough. Number 15, again in your head. Number 19, you could doodle it out if you wanted to, see if I could help you out with it. But again, I would not write these down unless you needed to. In this area, we start into Chapter 7 on chemical compounds. You see that I like to use pictures to illustrate things. They're doing a pretty good job at this as well, but I still maintain this stole the idea from me. Ignore this. What you want to do is read these pages in here, which I am doing doubly so with my lessons. So we're doubling up on this. This is one of the few times where the textbook and my lessons are actually the same thing. So my lessons, I think, are actually better. They get closer to the techniques right away. This actually has all the little details along the way. We talk about molecular compounds. I prefer the term covalent bonds, but you're going to look at molecular compounds and ionic compounds, and those are the two keys to forming compounds and looking at the kinds of compounds that are out there. Chapter 7 starts around page 254. You get an overview of we're moving from individual atoms and how atoms are built, which is what Chapter 6 focuses on. Chapter 7 focuses on the marriage of atoms, how we put atoms together. And there are two kinds of bonding. Molecular bonds, or I prefer the term covalent, and you'll see why, and ionic bonds, or ionic compounds. That's the last part of chemistry. So you're looking at how atoms are put together and how they bond, and we're looking at two forms of bond. That is it. And that will be built on directly in grade 10. So you should be familiar with all this material in here. I'll be doing a bit on nanotechnology. It's worth reading this stuff because it brings it a bit more to life. If you notice, I never assign all the questions in a section. That doesn't mean you can't do the other ones or read through them. I've just chosen the ones that I thought were most irrelevant. these solve a problem ones, create and evaluate, you could think through them if you wanted to, but they're really even less valuable now that we're not meeting in person. All right, so chapter 6 and 7, giving you 3 weeks for that. I think that's a good amount of time. But once again, if 4 problems are encountered, you can contact me and see. Let's look at the pictures I've attached to the unit here. I've worked really hard on these, so I'm very impressed, and so should you be. By the end of the unit, you need to be able to explain what each of these pictures means, and you should be able to wax on them at great length. Right now, they should be a mystery. The big sadness to me is you don't get to do this lab right now, which is just a crying shame because it's so much fun. So should we not get back together before the end of the school year and you go to grade 10 without having done this lab, you look me up and we'll do it together because it's just way too fun to miss this wonderful lab here. I do have it videoed, but it's not the same thing. This sheet here I've also worked very hard on. This one covers in a nutshell everything you need to understand for grade 9 to grade 10 chemistry. This page and this one. You laminate these. You keep them under your pillow. I worked so hard putting these together, keeping them short and sweet. And right now you might be looking at it going, "Ah, what is that?" But trust me, in 2 weeks' time you'll go, "This makes so much sense." And then, this thing again. And then there's this. And this small stuff is, you see what it says? Fun to know. Must know. Pay attention. And I will be presenting some videos on stuff that we would have done in class when I make a little planet of Jupiter in a jar. And I'm so mad. It's the one demo I've never filmed. And it's just awesome. And you have a free ticket to come see it next year if we don't get back together. After that, I go into way more detail. And so this covers everything in chemistry. These pages here were worksheets that we were going to go through together. We can't do that now. I will show you how to work with them in the next few days by creating a little video, because I never put these on YouTube because they were intended as doodle sheets in class. So there's no work to actually fill in on these ones. These were basically doodle pads, because I hate it when kids freehand these diagrams because they're very hard to mark when they're done freehand. So I create that doodle pad for you. These are all the keynotes. And again, I would encourage you to keep them for next year. They are all on YouTube as videos. I will make sure that they're there this week. This is 3 weeks of notes here. Notice the I cans. This stuff here is really critical. Okay? This up here is important background information, the atomic theory. But in terms of grade 10, this is where the teachers are going to start off going, you should have learned this last year. And trust me, we're going to be understanding about this next year. But these slides here, right to here, the noble gases. I've got 12 slides. And that is everything. That is the whole unit boiled down to 12 slides. That's as short as I could make it and being thorough. This is extra. And then I go into making compounds, ionic. And the covalent ones, I don't have a note for. So this is making ionic compounds. There isn't one that says making covalent. I've not come up with a good way other than videos of me doing it by hand. It doesn't translate well that I have found to slides. I would need to make animations. There are only 3 assignments. This one, this one, and this last one. 3 weeks, one of these per week. Okay? The average time to do them is about half an hour if you're paying attention, and about 9 months if you're not. If you bother to read the instructions and go to the videos, these will be dead easy to do. Your instructions for the week starting April 27th is to do none of them. Don't even begin. I'm setting these up to work better online, but you have everything here. What you can start with is a bit of textbook work, and you can start reading these or watching the videos online. But you can consider the next day or two just free time to catch up on any work, make sure you've cleared up the first part of chemistry, and then you can start by tackling some of this textbook work and reading my notes. Do not start any of the assignments. So I would say try to work through this over the next 3 or 4 days. All right? So that should get you started for the week of April 27th.